Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome into The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am your host, Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on Touchdown Alabama's YouTube page. Hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. If you are a subscriber, hit that notification bell. Make sure you're notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. I am here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news. And on this episode of The Process, I want to take a look at a couple of updates from the Crimson Tide's busy and loaded weekend from this past weekend, as they were able to get 9 official visitors on campus, including multiple 5-star prospects. I will have a couple of updates from those group of visitors. I will also discuss the Crimson Tide's 5-star defensive end target Payton Woodring getting set to announce a commitment in July. I will discuss his 4 finalists and take a look at a couple of new offers for the Tide, including an offer to a 2023 kicker out of Louisiana. We're going to get things started today by talking about Jamie French, a 2025 wide receiver out of Mandarin High School in Jacksonville, Florida. He picked up an offer from Nick Saban in Alabama after he attended a Nick Saban football camp recently. Taking a look at what French brings to the table, he's projected to be one of the top wide receiver prospects in the 2025 recruiting class. Already has a massive offer list, including offers from Ohio State, Michigan, and now Alabama. So the Crimson Tide are going to be in the mix for one of the top freshmen in the entire country out of Florida. Taking a look at his film, you see that he plays well beyond his age. Impressive route running skills for a guy his age. He's also able to make some plays after the catch. So he's a guy you can definitely see why he has that early offer list. A guy to just know over the next 3 years, because like I said, he is a 2025 prospect. And actually on today's show, we're going to talk about a total of 3 2025 prospects who picked up offers from Alabama recently, because the Crimson Tide are starting to evaluate those guys more and more, especially with them getting guys on campus to camp during the month of June. The next 2025 prospect I'm going to turn my attention to is Alvin Henderson, who's actually from the state of Alabama. He currently attends Elba High School in Elba, Alabama, and the Crimson Tide became the 51st D1 program to offer the impressive freshman out of Elba. He is a special talent at the running back position. Taking a look at what the Elba Tigers offense is, how it's operated, it's basically a wing T offense, heavy run, so he gets an opportunity to show off his skills as a wildcat quarterback and as a running back. Gets a lot of carries in that offense, and he was very productive during the 2021 football season. Picked up an offer from Nick Saban after attending the Nick Saban football camp. He said that he felt like it was a dream when he got that offer from the Crimson Tide, which is something you expect to hear from a guy who grew up in the state watching Nick Saban and Alabama build this dynasty in Tuscaloosa. So he said he felt like it was a dream when he was notified that he got that offer. He actually said he feels like he is around family when he's in Tuscaloosa. The Tide have hosted him a couple of times before. They hosted him for a camp on Monday. So he said every time that he has taking a visit to Tuscaloosa, it has seemed like the coaching staff look at him as a son. So he's the second 2025 running back actually from the state of Alabama to pick up an offer from the Crimson Tide, joining Anthony Rogers out of Pike Road High School in Pike Road, Alabama. Another in-state 2025 prospect who picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide recently is Anquan Ferguson, a 2025 defensive back out of Thompson High School in Thompson, Alabama. He's actually the younger brother of the Crimson Tide's freshman and former Thompson defensive back Anquan Ferguson, who's going to be suiting up for the Crimson Tide, repping the number 22 this upcoming season. Ferguson is projected to be another top 2025 defensive back prospect. So you look at Henderson, you take a look at Rogers, who I talked about earlier, who's another 2025 running back. Now taking a look at Ferguson. The state of Alabama is going to be ridiculously loaded over the next couple of recruiting classes. The 2024 class has some great players as well. Taking a look at Mario Craver, you have Jalen Mbakwe. Also have Jeremiah Beeman, guys I've talked about on previous episodes of the process. Taking a look at the 2025 prospects in the state of Alabama, you have those guys who I've just mentioned. mentioned, along with Rodgers. So the state of Alabama is going to continue to be ridiculously loaded after the 2023 recruiting class, which is just crazy from top to bottom when you take a look at the amount of talent that resides inside the state. But the Tide have also offered some 2024 prospects recently, including Bryce West, a 2024 defensive back who has the opportunity to be a complete defensive back in this particular recruiting class. Taking a look at his footage, you're not going to find too many young defensive backs who are willing tacklers like this kid is. He's a willing tackler, willing to embrace contact. He's an effective tackler in the open field as well. So there's a lot to like about him in terms of his physicality and what he brings to the table. Similar to the first couple of guys I've talked about in this episode, the process, he picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide as well. The offer came from Nick Saban after he attended the Nick Saban football camp. After he attended that camp, he told me that he feels that Nick Saban is a great guy, great coach. He said you do not see too many head coaches actually being actively involved in the camp, especially with the defensive backs. We all know Saban is heavily involved with Alabama's defensive backs at every practice, but he's actually heavily involved in the camp as well. So West said that really stood out about Saban when he got an opportunity to camp in Tuscaloosa recently. The 6', 180-pounder is also an effective defensive back and pass coverage, especially in man-to-man situations. Really prides himself on his man-to-man coverage. So he's going to be a 2024 prospect to keep your eyes on moving forward. Once again, Bryce West picking up that offer from the Crimson Tide. A couple of other 2024 prospects who picked up offers from the Crimson Tide are Jacob and Gerald Smith. They are brothers who attend Lumen Chaffee School in Windsor, Connecticut. Both are 4-star prospects in the 2024 recruiting class. Both earned offers from the Crimson Tide after attending camp. Taking a look at Gerald Smith, he's more of an interior defensive lineman, has a thicker frame than his brother Jacob, who stands about 6'5", who will most likely be an edge rusher at the next level. Nick Saban told Jacob that he can use him in a similar way to how he uses Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, the Crimson Tide's outside linebacker group, basically. So he feels that Jacob Smith has an opportunity to be a great edge rusher, but Gerald Smith got some glowing remarks from Nick Saban as well. Saban actually told him they loved this film during their visit to Alabama during the spring. They returned to Tuscaloosa to camp, so he had a great feel about Jacob Smith as well. Both impressed and picked up offers from the Crimson Tide. An opportunity to talk with both guys. Jacob said that Nick Saban told him about the Will Anderson situation. Also told him that he feels that he can just be an all-around great edge rusher in terms of dropping back in coverage, which is something Will Anderson does not do a lot, which is something he does not have to do because he's such a dominant edge rusher. But he feels that Jacob Smith has an opportunity to be a complete edge rusher. Gerald Smith can grow into a great interior defensive lineman. An opportunity to ask Jacob, actually, how does it feel to join the recruitment process with your brother and just enjoy everything? And he said it has been a great joy for him to join his brother on this recruiting journey throughout their recruiting process. Said how many other guys have an opportunity to play alongside their brother at pretty much any school in the nation, and both of these guys have that opportunity as they have both picked up offers from Alabama and Georgia within the last week. But now we are going to switch our focus to what I wanted to dive into deeply on this show, and that is Payton Woods announcing a commitment date for July 8th as he will choose between the Tide, Florida, Clemson, and Jackson State. Jackson State actually replaces Oklahoma. The Sooners were listed in Woods' top 4 before he announced his commitment date, but with him announcing that commitment date on today, telling me that he will announce a commitment on July 8th, he said that Jackson State will take the place of the Oklahoma Sooners, and he will choose between Jackson State, Alabama, Florida, and Clemson. Actually, an opportunity to speak with Woods during Thompson's spring practice, and he had a lot of great things to say about each team listed in his Final Four. Said Alabama was the longest recruiting relationship that he had. Spoke highly of the Crimson Tide. I still feel that they are in a good position with Woods. He also spoke highly of Clemson. He said that he feels that Coach Sweeney, Dabo Sweeney, is one of the best coaches in college football. He said he has come into Clemson and made their program really something special. Said it's really about their coaching staff and how they care about the man you become regardless of the football player you become. And he also said the Tigers set you up great for the future. So he had a lot of great things to say about the Oklahoma Sooners, but about the Clemson Tigers when I got an opportunity to catch up with Peter Woods at Thompson's spring practice. He actually told me that he had not had an opportunity to get out to Florida to take in their new staff. Actually took an official visit there earlier this month, so the Gators were able to get a shot at Woods by getting him on campus. So I think it would actually come down to Clemson and Alabama. I still feel the Crimson Tide are in a good position right now. If he made a decision right now and I had to make a prediction, I would still say that the Crimson Tide will land Peter Woods, but we'll see what actually happens on July 8th when he announces his commitment decision at around 6:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. So be on the lookout for that as one of the Crimson Tide's top 2023 targets, one of the top in-state targets, one of the top defensive end prospects in the nation will announce that commitment in a couple of weeks. Another 5-star prospect to the Crimson Tide are going after in the 2023 recruiting class is Samson Okololo out of Thayer Academy in Massachusetts. He actually has locked in a commitment date to be in Tuscaloosa on this weekend. I know last weekend was a big weekend for the Crimson Tide, but this weekend is shaping up to be another great one for the Tide with multiple 5-star prospects heading back to town, including a 4-star prospect who I think Alabama fans should pay close attention to in Makari Vickers, the 4-star defensive back out of John Paul II Catholic High School in Tallahassee, Florida. But transitioning back over to Samson Okololo, he recently released a top 9 and included the Tide. His relationship with Alabama is still relatively new. That offer is not an old one. He actually got that offer a couple of weeks ago. Nick Saban called him, which is something that is really special because Nick Saban does not call every guy who gets an offer off campus. He usually is very active when guys pull in their offers during visits, but in terms of calling guys and informing them of their offer from the Crimson Tide, Nick Saban is not very active on that front. But with Samson Okololo, he was very active, and looks as if the Crimson Tide are making a push and a strong impression on Okololo, with them locking in that commitment date after picking up an offer from the Crimson Tide a couple of weeks ago. He said when he picked up the offer from the Tide that him and Nick Saban talked a lot about the Alabama football program. He told me that he actually has a previous relationship with the Crimson Tide's offensive line coach Eric Wolford, which goes back to his time at Kentucky. So we'll see how the Crimson Tide can continue to move forward at Okololo's recruitment with a great official visit. We'll definitely have our eyes on his entire weekend when it comes to the 5-star offensive lineman out of Massachusetts. Going back to an offer, but I think this is an offer to spend some time on because the Crimson Tide actually offered their first 2023 specialist, and he's a 2023 kicker out of Lafayette, Louisiana, and Payton Woodring, who is one of the top kickers in the 2023 recruiting class. The Tide extended that offer to him actually on Monday. The Tide actually hosted him during the spring, but they wanted to get him back on campus at a kicking camp to see what he's able to do in live game action and basically live action. So he impressed the Crimson Tide, picked up that offer from Alabama on Monday. Actually has offers from a couple of different schools as well. I think it is interesting. Like I said in the last episode of the process, I wanted to see what specialist, what kicker picks up an offer from the Crimson Tide. Just taking a look at some of the other guys who recently picked up offers from Alabama, the other kickers. A lot of those guys have come in on preferred walk-on opportunities. Outside of Will Reichert, there has not been a lot of specialists on scholarship. Yeah, I think pretty sure James Burnap is a guy along with Will Reichert who's on the scholarship. But outside of that, a lot of guys accepted walk-on opportunities. But with the Crimson Tide extending an offer to Payton Woodring, he's a guy they want to actually get on campus. He's a guy to pay attention to in terms of possibly announcing a commitment for the Crimson Tide in the future, especially at the kicker position. I remember I talked about positions I feel Alabama is going to prioritize in this 2023 recruiting class. And I said the kicker position because Will Reichert will most likely move on to the NFL and will definitely move on for Alabama at the conclusion of this season. But to close out today's show, I do want to talk about a couple of updates from last weekend as the Tide were able to get some top prospects on campus, including Jakey Johnson, a 4-star athlete out of Mustang High School in Mustang, Oklahoma. He was on campus for an official visit. Johnson is one of the top athletes in the 2023 recruiting class. He's one of the Crimson Tide. Look as if he's going to be one of the Crimson Tide's top targets. He's an interesting target because he could be a wide receiver or defensive back at the next level. You rarely see a prospect who's so athletic and so technically sound at both positions, but Jakey Johnson is a prospect who actually is that. And the Crimson Tide are a bit confused at what position they will actually use him at. He told me that I got an opportunity to spend time with a couple of Alabama's coaches, a couple of Alabama's players during his visit. Actually was hosted by the Crimson Tide sophomore defensive back Terrion Arnold, who was in a bit of a similar situation in high school in terms of Johnson, because Johnson actually has an opportunity to play football and basketball at the next level at other schools. Alabama has not given him that opportunity, but Terrion Arnold was a guy who was presented that opportunity at a lot of schools, including Alabama. Looks as if it's not going to happen in Tuscaloosa for Arnold, but Johnson had an opportunity to spend some time with Arnold. Like I said, spend some time with Nick Saban as well, and Saban told him that if he comes to Alabama, he's going to have an opportunity to be great in everything that he does. So he's going to keep his recruitment open, have a couple of more official visits coming up before he wants to make a decision. He will actually visit Stanford later this month. He has that official visit locked in, so the Tide will have an opportunity to see some other schools host the four-star athlete before he's able to make a decision. Another top target who's on campus this weekend is Olas Elanine out of Lumen Chaffee School in Windsor, Connecticut, actually teammates of Jacob and Gerard Smith. Elanine was on campus to take his official visit, and his player host was Tyler Booker, the Crimson Tide's freshman offensive lineman out of IMG Academy, who's actually a Connecticut native. So I'm pretty sure that played a large part in him being Elanine's player host, with him being from Connecticut, and Elanine being a Finland native who has moved to Connecticut to play his junior and senior season of high school football. But Elanine said he had a great time. You guys probably saw some of his official visit on our YouTube. Saying an opportunity to build a lot of relationships during his official visit. Said he had been to Tuscaloosa a couple of times, so he felt comfortable with campus. He said he saw his official visit as an opportunity to continue building his relationship with Alabama's coaching staff and their players. So he spent a lot of time around the Crimson Tide's offensive linemen, including J.C. Latham and Tyler Booker. Also got an opportunity to spend some time around the guys who were officially visiting Alabama on last weekend. Said they were all talking about the future, talking about how they felt about the next step in their life. So they had an opportunity to bond with those guys. Spent some time with Nick Saban. Told me that Saban did not promise him anything. The only thing he did promise him was an opportunity to be great. So he's going to have an opportunity to be the best that he can be in Tuscaloosa. So Saban pitched that to the four-star offensive lineman, who has a trio of official visits coming up. He has an Alabama official behind him. They'll have some more official visits coming up before he makes a decision. Will officially visit Ohio State, Georgia, and if I'm not mistaken, he's actually locked in an official visit to Oregon as well. He's a prospect who could announce a commitment before his senior season, but that is still in the air at the moment. So we will see how he feels after he wraps up all of his official visits during the summer, because he will take 5. So that is what I wanted to talk about on this episode of The Process. Told you I had a lot to get to today. Actually have a lot more to get to in terms of this weekend. That's the Crimson Tide will host another loaded group of official visitors as they continue to try to evaluate guys in multiple recruiting classes, try to build up that 2023 class, which I think could get a huge boost in a couple of weeks, especially during the month of July. Would not surprise me if a guy announced a commitment to the Crimson Tide before this month ends either. So thank you guys so much for joining me today on this episode of The Process. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com, pick up your subscription today. With that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber only articles. Then head over to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, or to the Apple App Store if you have an Apple device, to download the Touchdown Alabama app. With that app, breaking news notifications can be sent to your mobile device. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.